Go.
Hello. Today I'm going to be giving an informative speech, and I'm going to be talking about the history and how-to of crochet. I am a hooker, and not in the way that you're thinking. I am a hooker in that I crochet, and people in the yarn work world call crocheting hooking because instead of using knitting needles, we use hooks to make things like scarves, hats, gloves. I've even made like a stuffed whale for a newborn baby. Instead of getting one from the store, she hired me to make one at home, so that was pretty cool. When you think of crochet, you probably think of your grandma sitting in a rocking chair, humming, rocking back and forth, and making you another blanket to add to your collection, but that's not what it is today. It's come leaps and bounds since its traditional roots, and what was once a skill-driven trade in Europe has now become more of an art. People today, they're making more things as an art rather than function, I guess is how you could say that. There are many variations of handwork, knitting, but crocheting is more specific, I guess I feel like. It's like they pulled stuff from all other yarnwork trades and it turned into this one very precise skill. It's very vague. The history of crocheting is very vague. We don't know much about it, but history experts such as Anne Potter really think that it started in Europe in the 17th century. The earliest roots it has are probably in the Chinese needlework known as tambour, and they call it that because tambour means drum. So when they would go about doing this, they would stretch a piece of fabric really tight across a frame, and they would go underneath the fabric and pull up the thread and come back around. So that's why it's called tambouring. Eventually, it transitioned. They got rid of the background fabric, and instead of that, they were just making loops and pulling the yarn through, and that's how it evolved from that into crochet. I'd say the most useful purpose that crochet has had is probably for the Irish people. They used it basically to pull themselves out of poverty. During the potato famine, there was not much money going around their country, and the older generations knew how to crochet, so they started teaching the younger ones. It took off. They had cooperatives, they had schools that were meant to teach people how to do that, and they made a profit on it. And they saved up their money and immigrated to other countries to start a new life, because in Ireland it was just not a good situation. And of course, when they immigrated, they met new neighbors and they taught them how to crochet, and it really took off. And it's hard to believe that a skill such as that was that important, that you can learn how to do it, but it really is that easy. All you need is a hook, and they come in a lot of different sizes. This is just what I have, but one this size would be used for a thicker yarn. This is called chunky yarn. And then a littler one, like this, would be used for a thin yarn. This is cotton, but you would make this to use like scarves and things like that. So crocheting is done by making a slip knot, like this. And you put the hook in, and then you're going to use it you wrap it around and pull it through the hoop. And you keep doing this. This is called making a chain. So it's really simple once you get the hang of it. You pull it around, you make a loop. Then when you're ready, like say if I was going to make a really baby scarf, I would go back across this way and add to my chain. And keep going until I have it as long as I want to do. So when I learned to crochet, it took me about 2 weeks to really get it, and from then on I started following patterns. Patterns today are way more efficient than they were in the older days. It used to be that you would just watch someone make something and then you try to copy it, and that was as precise as it got. But these days you can look at patterns on Pinterest or on websites like Etsy, and they will tell you exactly how many stitches you need to make. So essentially, you can make anything if you know how to read a pattern. And that's one of my favorite things about crochet. These are some examples of something called yarn bombing. So today this is becoming a big thing. They take something in a public place and they will go usually in the middle of the night and wrap crocheted or knitted things around it. So when people wake up the next morning, these things they've walked by many times now are covered in really colorful yarn. And it's just a really fun way. I guess it is technically vandalism, but it makes people happy. This is my favorite example of yarn bombing. This has to do with, she made this dragon for the Game of Thrones TV show, and someone took it down. So after that, you know, in humor, she's an artist, so of course she's going to be creative. She put up something saying, "Have you seen my dragon?" And that's really, crochet is going to evolve with the times. No matter what's popular at the time, you're going to be able to crochet or make something like that. And this is, if you've ever seen Despicable Me, this is a Minion hat from that. So I think that crochet is going to be around a very long time, because as long as there's pop culture and things like that, crochet is going to be relevant. The do-it-yourself notion has exploded in recent years, and that's also added to crochet's popularity. With grandmothers and next generations keep learning this, it's just going to stay relevant for years to come. And in the 19th century, people crocheted for practicality, but in these days, they crochet for art. And that creativity is endless. And that's my speech. Thank you.